We spend so much time worrying about AI becoming more human. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the real story is us becoming more like AI?
Maybe you've felt it. You're reading an email or a social media post, and there's a certain polish to it, a specific choice of words that feels just a little bit off, but you can't quite put your finger on why.
It's words like these, right? Words that are perfectly fine on their own, but now they seem to be absolutely everywhere, weaving a rich tapestry of communication that underscores a new realm of dialogue. If that sentence made you cringe a little, well, that's exactly the point.
So today, we're going to break this all down. We'll look at this new AI speech pattern, we'll get into the cultural feedback loop that's driving it, and explore the weird ways humans are pushing back. We'll weigh the pros and cons, dig into the social price of it all, and wrap up with how to find your own human voice in this new world. Okay, first things first, let's define what we're even talking about.
That feeling you've been having, it's totally real. In fact, researchers have a name for it: GPT-ified speech. It's this subtle but very measurable shift in our own language to sound more like the large language models we're all using now.
But how is this even happening? Well, the answer lies in this really fascinating idea that explains how culture and technology are constantly influencing each other.
Researchers at the Max Planck Institute call it a cultural feedback loop. And the cycle is pretty simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. First, we fed the machine all of our writing, the entire internet. Then it learned from that and developed its own unique, statistically driven style. And now, as we use it for our emails, our essays, and our posts, we're absorbing its style right back into our own vocabulary. And this isn't just a hunch, it is measurable. Since Chat GPT became public, the use of the word delve, a classic AI favorite, has jumped a whopping 51% in spoken media like podcasts and YouTube videos. That's not a coincidence. So, why do we do it? According to Levin Brinkman, one of the study's authors, it's because we don't just copy anyone. We subconsciously copy those we see as experts. And because AI sounds so polished, so academic, and so confident, we perceive it as an authority, and we start to imitate it. But, okay, this story has a really great twist, because while we're starting to sound more like machines, we're also getting very, very good at exploiting their attempts to sound more human. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is a real prompt someone used to trick Chat GPT. By making up this sad, emotional story, they actually convinced the AI to break its own rules and give them working, pirated software keys. The bot, which is programmed to be empathetic, was totally manipulated by a fake sentimental story. And this just highlights the incredible irony of right now. Our big fear is this cold, calculating super AI outsmarting us all. But the reality? We have an AI whose programmed kindness and desire to connect are its biggest weaknesses. We're the ones getting more robotic, while the robot is getting tripped up by its own simulated heartstrings. So, is this big linguistic shift a good thing or a bad thing? Well, as with most things, it's complicated. There are some clear upsides and some pretty significant downsides. It really boils down to a trade-off. On one hand, these AI tools are empowering. They help students, non-native speakers, and frankly anyone with writer's block communicate more clearly and confidently. That's a good thing. But on the other hand, when we all start using the same co-pilot, we risk this massive homogenization of thought. We could be sanding down the quirks, the humor, and the raw emotion that make our voices uniquely human. This isn't just about the words we choose. This shift could have a much deeper social cost, affecting our relationships, our loneliness, and even our emotional well-being. A major 4-week study looked at exactly this. They tracked nearly 1,000 people to see how their daily chats with an AI companion actually affected their psychosocial health. And the top-line finding was unambiguous. Across the board, the more time people spent talking to the AI each day, the lonelier they said they were, the less they socialized with actual people, and the more emotionally dependent they became on the chatbot. But the details here are fascinating. The study found that how you interact really matters. For example, among the heavy users, those who used a voice chatbot reported socializing way less than those who just used text chat. The medium itself seems to change the social outcome. And what you talk about matters, too. And this is kind of counterintuitive. Heavy users who discussed practical, non-personal topics showed higher emotional dependence on the AI. You might think sharing deep personal feelings would create more dependency,
but it seems that relying on AI for everyday tasks is what really creates that bond. So, where does all of this leave us? What's the big takeaway from this whole journey into GPT-ified speech and its social side effects?
When you boil it all down, the real story isn't some sci-fi fantasy about AI waking up. It's a much quieter, much more human story about our own adaptation, our communication, and the risk of giving up our own originality for the sake of efficiency and polish. The solution isn't to just reject these tools, it's about using them mindfully. First, just be aware. Notice when you start to delve into topics. Second, be intentional. Think of AI as a great starting point, a brainstorming partner, but never let it be the final author. And finally, be you. After you get that first draft, go back and inject your own personality, your stories, your jokes, your unique way of seeing the world. And really, that's the question we're left with. As we build machines that can perfectly imitate human connection, we have to ask ourselves, what parts of our own humanity, our messy, imperfect, and beautifully authentic voices, are we willing to protect?